I'm back reviewing Black Clover Volume 16. So in this one, the battle against the Eye of the Midnight Sun is still going on. When this one, it reveals like the actual identity of the Eye of the Midnight Sun leader. Up until this point, he had been going by the name Licht, but then we find out it's not actually him. Like there was back during the time of the elves, the leader was a man named Licht, who was the one who summoned the demon to protect his people. But the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun is actually another elf named Patri, where we've seen him, I think it's 2 or 3 times, during the flashbacks we've been getting, where he was actually a pretty close friend of Licht in life. And so Patri was the first one to be reincarnated. He doesn't know why. And we find out he was reincarnated into William's body. And so he ended up taking on Licht's identity so that he could take revenge against the humans for what they did. And you find out he was only really able to reincarnate Fido, Fauna, and then Rhea. And I believe Rhea was the only one who knew that Patri wasn't really Licht. Because we get a flashback to Patri. I'm kind of jumping ahead, but I think Rhea was the first one he reincarnated. We're talking to him and he says, however, this is my mission. And for some reason he also looks like Licht. I don't think it's explained. But then he goes, isn't it Rhea? And then Rhea's like, yeah, sure, Licht. And so I don't think Fauna or Fido knew that he wasn't Licht. So I think it was only Rhea who knew. And Patri also explains that the reincarnation spell will bring the elves into human bodies that share a similar wavelength to them, which explains why he didn't want Ghost hurt or killed, because Ghost looks really similar to one of the elves from back then. Because he only showed up, I think it was once during one of their luncheons, I guess. And he was sitting across from Fido and Fauna, or elves that looked like them. And it will also explain why Ghost didn't know Patri even though he knew him. And he, like I said, he and William share a body, and they can kind of switch back and forth Yu-Gi-Oh style with Yugi and the Pharaoh. Because I think it was the reincarnation isn't complete yet. And so that's why they kind of switch back and forth where William goes to sleep for a while and then Patri takes over. Or William takes over and Patri's asleep. But I think they're still mostly aware of what's going on, or they're able to communicate with each other. So I think it's Patri knew about Julius, so there has to be some sort of communication between them. This also brings up something where towards the end the reincarnation spell hits, and then we don't see it much in this one, but some of the characters Luck, Hammer and Claus, Pooley, the Blue Rose Knight from the Royal Knights exam, they all get taken over by the elves. And Luck goes to attack Noel and Q's, because they're team up together, and he's able to use Luck's magic, but for some reason Patri's unable to use William's magic for some reason. Because I did get up to Volume 17, reading it, and all the elves later on are able to use the magic of the human that they're like reincarnated into. Like the elf fauna, when she was reincarnated into the human fauna's body, she was able to use the fire, like, mineral magic combination that fauna has. Because, like, Morris, he had, like, Frankenstein hers and Mouse's grimoires so that they could, like, somehow use each other's magic. And so the elf fauna was able to use hers, but for some reason, Petrie can't use William's magic, even though they share a body and presumably share like that similar wavelength he was talking about. And he also somehow gets like another grimoire, even though like none of the other characters apparently have that problem, because he mentions that this grimoire belongs to him, I can't use it, so he goes to like one of the towers where the grimoires are being kept. It's like there's like multiple around the kingdom. And he gets a grimoire. And so, is it just that because they share a body, somehow you can have two grimoires? I mean, like, it's, I guess it could just kind of sad with like Mouse and Fauna, because he like I said, somehow like stitch the grimoires up to each other. Is it similar to like that somehow? But like I said, it's weird because like none of the other elves have that problem of being unable to like use the human like host's magic. Or is it he's just unique because he was the first one to like fully reincarnate? Oh, this like half reincarnate? Because I don't think it's. And they also have like another elf floating in a room. We see where Claus, Hammond, and Mimosa went into this one room. And they find, like I said, another elf floating in there. And I believe it's the real Licht. So I don't know how they got him. Is it just a human host that they found and they slowly started like reincarnate him through some of the spell? Or is it... I know Stellar's been doing a bunch of experimentation. I don't think they fully explained like what her experiments were, aside from like taking the children's magic. So unless he maybe created this body for Licht, because he already has like the tattoos that like the reincarnated elves have, because we've seen flashbacks to them. And they don't have like these markings. And so they must have already started the spell on him. But it just wasn't complete yet because they didn't have like all of the stones. And we found out all of the stones would like fully like reincarnate everyone and like get the power to do the full like reincarnation spell. And then jumping back to the beginning, they managed to get the stone that the Black Bull said that they got from, I think it was Saucy's village, I think I said it was. The Asta was keeping it in his room. Well, Falter managed to grab it despite Henry, like, rearranging the Black Bull's hideout a lot. And then he reveals his Black Bull's robe. And then Sally ends up fighting. She uses like a dark magic item, a magic scorpion necklace, where it increases her power so much that she creates a giant salamander to fight the Black Bull's hideout. She ends up using more dark magic items on the salamander to try and make it more powerful to defeat Henry. And then she wanted to probably try and like take him back, so that she could experiment on him like she tried to do with Asta. But I was Ghost, Golden, and Grey. The three of them end up going over to try and help Henry. And Ghost ends up getting the idea again to use the magic mirror in his eye He creates a bunch of copies of Gray so that she could transform the salamander, because it's made of gel, into plant magic, where Golden could use his potion magic on him. And then Henry saves them from Rady's one zombie, then Michael. And then Falter comes with a magic stone and teleports the rest of them away to the hideout. And one of the things I'm also wondering is, I don't know if it's gonna be explained. I was curious as to when Ghost got that mirror in his eye. Like, did it do it, like, purposefully? Did he get it replaced at some point? Oh. Because, like, most of the time he keeps, like, his bangs over that one eye, even in a lot of the flashbacks of him. And, like, the only time he raises it is so that he could use the magic item, the mirror. Because I don't think it's, like, a covering, like, over his eye. So I think that it's, like, actually, like, gone, and it's, like, the mirror, almost like a glass eye type of thing, like, in there. And it's been replaced. So I'm wondering, like, how long he's had that. Because I don't think they ever say. Like, I don't think they're ever gonna say it. I don't think it's, like, that important, but I'm just kind of curious about it. And so, like, the battle, I don't want to say it's a win for the Black Bulls, because they took the magic stone, the hideout's a mess, and the enemy got away, but they're all uninjured, they're all alive. And once Henry recovers some of his magic, he can rebuild the base. So before the three of them go back to the Eye of the Midnight Sun base, it cuts over to Julius. Like, at the Capitol, he's, like, standing on top of the royal castle, I think. Relum comes up to meet him. Well, I think he had called him there. And he starts talking to him. And he ends up telling Julius that he has another friend that he's met before he even met Julius. And that he can't choose between them. And so he decides for the two of them to choose for him. And so I'm assuming he's met him after he got his grimoire when he was like 16, like I think it's like 15 or 16, I think. He already had it when Patri woke up. And so this is when he reveals that he is the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun. And Julius, I think he already kind of knew, where he was saying that there was a part of him that he didn't let others see, that there was himself unease when he met the Eye of the Midnight Sun leader, and that when he wounded him after the Capitol invasion, when he went to the first hideout where they also took Ashta, he like wounded him in like the arm, and so he had like all the bandages on it until it was healed. And it also proves that it was William that Rhea took the appearance of during the meeting with I think it was at the end of volume like 5 or something. 5 or 6. It was before the Underwater Temple arc, where the Purple August captain was revealed as the traitor. And so Patri starts to reveal, like his plan, that he's taken off the magic stones for the stone tablet, that he wants to be fans and all of the humans for what they did to the elves centuries ago, and that it's revealed that Julius has the remaining magic stones. This leads to a fight that happens for like the fourth or so of the manga between Julius and Patri. And this is only like the second time Julius and also Patri has ever been in a fight. And it does start to like show like how powerful they are. Because like I said, they've only really fought like twice. Julius fought the first time at the end of the capital invasion, like Petrie sort of fought, but not really. He like released a bunch of his magic, but he didn't like fight Julius. And then Petrie fought at the end of the arc with Ghost's village, where he fought Yami, and then he ended up. I think he kind of joined the fight when Nocel, Jack, and then Solid showed up, and then the three generals showed up as well. I think he kind of joined the fight then. So this is actually like a pretty good fight. Like, part of me wished it went on longer, but at the same time, I kind of get why it didn't, because like as the battle goes on, Julius becomes faster and faster. Well, I think it was stated like that like light magic is the fastest magic, and so Julius ends up being able to like adapt to Petrie's movements and his spells, and he's able to like heal himself by like reversing time on the wound, and he ends up like scaring Petrie so much. It seems like starts to question like what in the world is he, and then he starts to wonder like what sort of grimoire could this man have, because he references his own like 4-leaf clover that he got in the tower after he like reincarnated into William's body, and so Julius is like, "Are you curious about my grimoire? Mine is up there," and he points, and it's like floating above the city. It has no cover. It's like thousands and thousands of pages, and like this is the first time they've ever had like a coverless grimoire in this series, and it's actually like so huge too. Like most of the other books are like roughly the size of like a hardback. Like maybe not like a hardback or something, like maybe like the size of like something like this, this kind of something. So it's like, did Julius somehow get like a random coverless grimoire, or were they like? Because I don't think they explained like how they make them. Did he just go to like? Do they make them at like the grimoire tower and he just went there and like a bunch of pages just like flew at him as they were like making it? Or did he get like a grimoire and the pages just like fell out and started like floating around him? And the pages look huge too. Like I don't think it's like tiny pages that look like huge too. And it also like this also like freaks Petrie out too. Cause I don't think even he's seen something like this. Like even like back during the days of the elves, I don't think anyone back then even that had that. And Julius goes on to say that he doesn't know if it was a good or a bad thing, but that he was special, and that he was kept asking about like what he might be and what he should do, and that he eventually reached the top. He became the Wizard King, but Petrie ends up escaping before Julius was able to like get him, and he ends up releasing the seal on his magic, which was referenced at the end of the Ghost's Village arc, where I think it was like Asta. Yeah, I think it was they were fighting Asta, and that was when Yami was teaching him about like ki, and to be able to like sense it and stuff, and I think something happened where like there was so much like dust and magic in the air that nobody could see Asta moving, and so like they couldn't get a hand, like they couldn't get at Petrie or something, and Asta was able to sense his ki and like go to attack him, but Petrie couldn't sense Asta because he has no magic, and so Asta ended up like hitting him with one of his swords, and he like lost control of his magic, and like the other generals had to like seal it up for him because he ended up becoming so like angry. Well, part of me feels like they were both on like pretty even ground until Petrie like released his magic. So I wonder if he hadn't been able to do that, who would have won? Because it almost seems like Julius was about to at the end before Patri released his magic and created like thousands and thousands of swords over the country. And Julius ends up spending so much of his magic to reverse what he was doing. And this just goes into like one of the little flashbacks for Julius where he kind of remembers like why he became the Wizard King, and he remembers meeting Sora's dad, Sarah, at one point on the battlefield, and seeing him trying to help people and hearing about how he died. But it also ends up, like I said, costing him so much magic that he wasn't able to save himself because Patri ends up pulling one final move where he ends up stabbing Julius with one of his light swords just as Zami was getting there. Marx had said notice to the other like bases as this fight was happening. Well, he was apparently only able to contact them and like the bases themselves, like no one else. Like just kind of like hoping that somebody would get the message. And Yami had gone to the Golden Dawn base to get an apology from William over what Langris did to Fenrol. And so Yami ended up flying there. I don't know if the base is closer or he just flew really fast. But he ends up getting there too late and he tries to attack Patri, but he gets away with Falto. And he ends up being with Julius in like his last moments, where Julius starts to talk to him about like Yami and the rest of the Magic Knights, and there's like a little parallel between him and Asta, where Asta's talking to Leona while they're still fighting Rhea, and Asta's telling her why he wants to become Wizard King. Well, first he wants to he's asking Rhea, like, tell us about your people. And Leona tries to stop him, but Asta's saying, but we can't understand each other. I mean, they're just like us, you know? Where he's talking about how he wants to make a free country where everybody can appreciate each other and so can laugh. And Julius is kind of thinking the same thing: a country without discrimination or hatred, the new future I'll build with you. And Rhea seems to be believing, but he says it's too late. It can't be stopped now. And he ends up passing away before Marx and Owen can get there. And this is like one of the sadder moments in the manga. Julius was also like the strongest mage in the whole country, and it is worse because Jami had to be there. So like Julius was like probably the one person that Jami was like closest to, because it's shown throughout the manga that he's like the one person that Jami really respects, and Julius had done everything he could to try and help him. Then it cuts over to Patri and the Falto Radies and Sally out at the new base. I think they're inside the skull of the demon now. That's outside of Anasta's village. They get there and they put the final stones in. And this is where Petri starts to reveal like what he really thought of the Eye of the Midnight Sun members. And reveals that he was planning to use the Eye of the Midnight Sun as sacrifices for the spell. Where he starts to talk about how much he's always hated them, that they have no problems hurting other people, but also they're very aware of like what people have done to them, but they don't have any problem to do the same thing to other people. And then this goes into one of the other flashbacks. It shows Licht getting a full leaf grimoire, and it kind of talks about the like the relationship with humans and kind of like what's been going on. But then they end up seeing a tornado and a young woman's like trapped in there. And then, but there's someone else there following like the tornado, and they both like slash at it at the same time, him and the other person, and Licht ends up saving the young woman who was trapped, named Tatia, and her brother was the other one who was trying to save her. And she is the woman we've seen in a few other flashbacks that they've mentioned, where she is his wife and she ended up becoming pregnant with his child. And so Licht, Tatia, and her brother, who I don't think is named, they end up becoming close. And they kind of like show each other their magic. And her brother ends up talking about like the magical items the humans have been creating, and how they can combine them with elves' mana. And so I think this is the first time we've ever had her name. Like, I don't think they've mentioned her that much, because it feels she's a princess. I'm assuming a princess of the Clover Kingdom. But, and so, like, this is also, I don't know, like, part of the reason why I wish they would have, like, looked into it more, aside from getting, like, these flashbacks, because it's, like, there's, like, no history, from what we can tell, on, like, the human side about the elves, because, like, the only information that was ever revealed was by the Witch Queen, and it seems like the history of what happened was distorted, because Noelle ends up mentioning kind of like the story of like what happened, but she talks about like it was actually like demons who did it, and like they summoned like a bigger demon to fight the humans, not like the elves. Because like I said, none of like the Black Bulls, like the other humans we've met, seem to try and look into the history of what the elves are doing. Because it's like, as soon as they got the information about the elves, back in like, well, I said volume 10 or 11, I think it was, they got the info. And there's never a scene of like one of the characters going to the library to try and see what they can find about the elves, like to verify what the Witch Queen is saying is true. And also, I think this guy is supposed to be the first Wizard King, because the story of the first Wizard King was that he fought the demon who had been summoned to try and attack like the Clover Kingdom. So I think we're supposed to be the same event. I don't know if the Witch Queen mentioned it. I forget if she did, but that was the story. So I think they're supposed to be the same event. And so I think this guy's supposed to be the very first Wizard King. So I kind of wish there was gonna be like more with her, since she seems to be like pretty important. Like, she was the princess. She's like the sister, presumably the first Wizard King, and she ended up marrying like the leader of the elves. And so far, there haven't been any offhanded comments about her, like, with the other characters. Like, I don't think they even talk about the first Wizard King that much, to be honest. Like, they talk about Julius quite a bit because he's the current one, but no one really ever mentioned the very first one. And you would think it would be pretty important, because I think he probably established the job of the Wizard King. Oh, this kind of like their duties, and yet no one's ever mentioned his name, I don't think, or like what he did, like anything about him. Should have been cool to have like the characters go and try and find out what happened and maybe find out that there's like a connection between them and maybe find out about his sister. Like they just seem to take what the Witch Queen said without like questioning it at all, especially considering she like end up becoming an enemy and try to attack all of them and like held them hostage to try and force Vanessa to come back on her side and all of this other stuff. And like I do wonder if how much of like the like records from back then are still around, like how protected they are. Because if they like try to somehow hide the fact of what happened and make like the elves out to be their enemies, and then I wonder if they were able to find anything that was like the truth of what happened, or if there's gonna be a bunch of like, I don't know, like blind spots in the history books or whatever they have in like the libraries. Yeah, I like this one because it had so many like revelations in it between like William and Patri like fully being revealed as like the traitor, because there were suspicions from like Yami about them somehow being connected to Julius's death, and then the spell like going through and like all this other things that it's really like ramping up everything with the elves, and I kind of like it, but as I said before, I think I kind of wish it would have like slowed this down a little bit. Because I mean, like so far I like what we're getting, and we are getting a lot more with like the elves and like more things going on with them, which I do appreciate. So yeah, I think that's everything for now. Peace.